Senate will come to order. The senators will please take their seats. The senators and all in attendance will please stand and be led in prayer by the Honorable Ryan T. McDougall, 4th Senatorial District. Following the prayer, everyone will please remain standing and be led in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America by Tara H. Perkinson, Chief Deputy Clerk, Senate Clerk's Office.
A reading from the Psalms, 143, 1 and 8. O Lord, hear my prayer. Listen to my cry for mercy. In your faithfulness and righteousness, come to my relief. Let the morning bring me word of your unfailing love, for I have put my trust in you. Show me the way I should go, for to you I lift up my soul. Lord, as we go through the trials and tribulations of life and this pursuit of good government, as we go through also the joys and exaltations of life, and certainly the challenges that we've been through over the last year, we ask that you give us wisdom and discernment. We ask that you give us calmness and discretion. Lord, we are all sinners, and we are so thankful for the blessings that you've bestowed upon us. So as we go through these, as we have the heated discussions, late days, lack of sleep, we ask that you remind us of those blessings. Even in difficult times, the simple blessings of being able to be together to make decisions, the opportunities to serve you and our fellow Virginians. And Lord, as we continue to go forward, remind us constantly of what you have given us, not for us to focus on what we do not have or cannot do. Thank you for your love. Thank you for always being with us. It's in your holy name that we pray. Amen. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Good afternoon, Mr. President.
Good afternoon, Senator.
Mr. President, I would respectfully move that the rules of the Senate be suspended consistent with the motion that we adopted on the first day of the session that allows members to participate electronically and remotely, sir.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the rules be suspended? All in favor of suspending the rules will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll. Ayes 38, no 0. The rules are suspended. The clerk will call the roll. All those in attendance will please record their vote aye.
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. We have a quorum. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Senator for Williamsburg, Senator Mason moves that the reading of the journal be waived. All in favor of waiving the reading of the journal will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote?
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 37, noes 2.
Ayes 37, noes 2. The reading of the journal is waived. The clerk will report any communication from the House of Delegates. The senior senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, I would move that we waive the reading of the communications from the House.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the reading of the communication from the House of Delegates be waived? All in favor of waiving the reading of the communication will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote?
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 36, noes 3.
Ayes 36, noes 3. The reading of the communication from the House of Delegates is waived. The clerk will report any communication from the governor.
We do not have any, sir.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Resolutions, petitions, and bills are now in order. Do any senators wish to be recognized? Is there any other business to come in the morning hour? Seeing none, the clerk will call the calendar.
Senate calendar for Thursday, January 21st, 2021. Senate Bill 1120. Yep.
Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Sasslaw.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate bills on third reading, the uncontested calendar, pages 1 through 3, that's Senate Bills 1120 through Senate Bill 1270, be placed on their final passage in a block, and that any senator desiring to remove a bill from the block, please do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the Senate bills on the uncontested calendar, third reading, pages 1 through 3, Senate Bill 1120 through Senate Bill 1270, be placed upon their final passage in the block, with the understanding that any senator desiring a bill be removed from the block will do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The bills are before us in the block. The clerk will read the number of the bills.
Senate Bill 1120. Senate Bill 1152. Senate Bill 1168. Senate Bill 1216. Senate Bill 1241. Senate Bill 1270.
The question is, shall the bills in the block pass? All in favor of passage of the bills will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? You may be, but we're not. No worries. Okay, I think we're ready. The Question is, shall the bills in the block pass? All in favor of passage of the bills will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote?
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The bills in the block pass.
Regular calendar, Senate bills on third reading. Senate Bill 1171, a bill relating to the State and Local Government Conflict of Interest Act, disclosure requirements, industrial development authorities, and economic development authorities.
Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would move that Senate Bill 1171 pass, and speaking to that motion, please, sir.
Senator, it's the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, Senate Bill 1171 in verbiage is not that complicated. You may recall that last year the senator from Rockbridge addressed this issue legislatively. This is a little bit of a deviation from that decision. What it provides is that if you are a member of an Economic Development Commission or an IDA, that you're currently required to file a statement of economic interest. What I have found from a couple of smaller jurisdictions in the senatorial district that I represent is that they are having some difficulties on this. One particular town lost 3 members on their IDA because they were declining to file the statement of economic interest. One who could be jaundiced and would say perhaps they are trying to obfuscate or obscure something that might be of a conflict that would disqualify them from participating on a specific vote. That is not the case. Sometimes in these smaller jurisdictions, everyone knows one another and everyone would like to know everybody else's business. And some of these individuals just are reticent to do that, so there's nothing nefarious about that. So what this legislation provides is that if you are in a locality or a combination of localities that has a multi-jurisdictional IDA or Economic Development Commission, you would not have to file the statement of economic interest. They believe that this will encourage participation, and I would say there are those who respectfully have a different perspective on it. I don't think there's anything insidious about it, and it certainly would not obscure or obviate any other requirement that would represent a conflict of interest. There still would be the affirmative responsibility to refrain from that. And frankly, as I was reflecting on it, it's not terribly different than what we do in the Senate. Yes, we file a statement of economic interest, and with particularity, it lists various stocks or mutual funds that we own, interest that we have in businesses, interest that we have in real estate. But ultimately, when you think about it, what it boils down to is a matter of conscience with us. There is no way someone on the outside really can objectively determine in many instances whether or not there's an overt conflict of interest. So I believe that this would certainly help some of our localities to continue to recruit participation on these commissions, and I would respectfully ask for your support on that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Excuse me, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard? Senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenshain.
Mr. President, speaking of the bill.
Senator, the floor.
Mr. President, members of the Senate, let me refresh your recollection. This bill was actually, this requirement was imposed last year And yesterday I sat through with the senator from James City County, senator from Westmoreland, and others through a courts committee meeting in which there were multiple bills that were introduced. And the response to those bills was, didn't we just deal with this issue? Didn't we just pass a law that this is now changing before we even have an opportunity to see how and whether it works? And the answer was yes, and all of those bills failed. This bill, this requirement for filing economic development or the financial disclosure forms, it arose out of a real situation. In one of the counties, and it's a situation that I hope none of you ever have to deal with in your districts, in one of my small counties that I represent, Warren County, the Economic Development Authority is really one of the governmental agencies with the most money. It has significant cash flow and has significant assets. And they were a victim of a $20 million embezzlement scheme that is still working its way through the civil and criminal courts. And as a result of this real-life experience, they went through and looked at ways that this could have been prevented, that it could be discouraged, and that related issues could be discouraged from coming up in the future. And one of those ways was adopting a requirement that members of these economic development and industrial development commissions fill out the same forms that we fill out, the statements of economic interest. And the senator from James City County is possibly right that these aren't going to be typically seen by people. They are not going to show every potential conflict. But I'm telling you that when we fill these out every year, it raises our awareness of the potential for conflict, the potential for making a misstep. And we know that those forms are available, and if members of the media decide that something is rotten in Denmark and want to go look, they can go look. I know that there have been members of EDAs around Virginia who have resigned. And some have resigned for exactly the reasons that Senator Norman suggests. Some have just been petulant and stamped their foot and said, by God, I'm not doing it. I quit. And think that they are somehow going to force us to change our mind. I don't like filling out the statements of economic interest, but I do it. And I would say, welcome to public service. This is an important job. I looked up one small county in a region of Virginia with about 14,000 people. And I actually went through a number of small counties, and their economic development and industrial development commissions do not have their financial statements online, for the most part. They're not even online. So you can't see it. I found one that was online, and they have $12 million in assets in a county with 14,000 people and cash flow of $300,000 a year. And that may not seem like a lot for folks from Fairfax County or Arlington or Alexandria, but in a small county, that's a lot of money coming through that county. And I'm here to tell you that whereas in Arlington or Alexandria, even in Rockingham, we may have a more robust staff to watch for potential conflicts. These small counties, they have no staff or virtually no staff, and they are less sophisticated. And when somebody has an opportunity to bring in a company, the opportunity for conflict is enormous. Absolutely enormous. This measure has not had an opportunity to percolate. There have been a handful of people who have resigned, but I don't believe that we should allow a handful of people who say, I'm not going to fill out a statement of economic interest, to cause us to slam on the brakes, reverse course, and repeal a significant portion of legislation we adopted last year for small counties and that are going to most significantly impact these small counties. And this measure doesn't just go from the full-blown statement of economic interest to the short form. It goes from the full form to no disclosure, none. So what I would ask is that we defeat this year. If this remains a continuing issue, let's revisit it. But let's give it a chance to work. Let's see whether it works, because the opportunities for fraud, the opportunities for mischief are enormous, and the consequences to communities are devastating. And I will also tell you that the consequences of that in that particular county, there was a allegation even that the sheriff was involved in this conflict of interest. The sheriff resigned from office and took his life. It has been devastating for that community, absolutely devastating. So this is intended to prevent those situations from arising in the future. It would be my hope that we'd vote no.
Thank the senator. For what purpose is the senior senator from Chesterfield, Senator Chase, rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to rise to speak against this bill, please.
Senator, has the floor.
Mr. President, with all respect to the patron, this is actually economic development authorities. I'm all for economic development, but since I've been elected in 2016, this has actually been one of the top issues that I've had to deal with in my district. And I've always looked at promoting legislation that created greater transparency within our economic development authorities that we currently have, where we have elected officials who are setting up unelected folks to allocate money, taxpayer money. My preference as a legislator and as a Virginian is to have those folks who are elected dole out and spend taxpayer money. And so please understand, nothing personal to the patron of the bill, but this is I have a heightened sense of concern when it comes to anything as it relates to IDAs and EDAs. And unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to support this measure. Thank you.
Thank the senator. For what purpose is the senator from King George, Senator Stewart, rise?
Speak to the bill, Mr. President.
Senator, has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, members, I was intrigued as the senator from Rockingham was giving his dissertation about this bill, and particularly intrigued because we did have a discussion in the Courts Committee about bills that had not taken effect yet, bills that were done in the special session that don't even take effect, I think, until another month or two. But in this case, this bill took effect last year, and as a result of that, we've seen people resigning from these IDAs and EDAs in the small jurisdictions. There's a county in the Northern Neck, 9,000 people, 9,000 residents in it. It's actually in Senator from Hanover's district, but I work with them closely on certain things in sort of my area in the world. They had 3 people resign as well, and it's nothing insidious about it. It's just this simple. In small town areas where everybody knows each other, they don't always want everybody to know their business. And I struggle to see how an economic disclosure form could in any way stop or help to catch somebody in an embezzlement scheme. An embezzlement scheme, by its very nature, is a criminal act that you do, and you do it subversely so that nobody knows what you're doing. Eventually, you always get caught. But there's just no way that an economic disclosure form could even aid in stopping that. And so what I would say to you all is it's hard enough to get people in rural Virginia to volunteer for public service, and in many cases in these small areas, you've only got a handful of people that are qualified to even serve on these entities. And so let's not make it any harder. This is a reasonable compromise particularly with the senator from Western Fairfax's amendment. It's a very reasonable compromise, and let's fix this bill going forward. So please support it.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding Senate Bill 1171? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 1171 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senator desire to change their vote?
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 24, noes 15.
Ayes 24, noes 15. Senate Bill 1171 passes.
Senate Bill 1122, a bill relating to habitual offenders repeal.
Senator from Franklin County, Senator Stanley.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon, Senator.
Mr. President, if I may, Senate Bill 1122, I've gotten a call this morning, contact this morning from the administration and the DMV, and they've asked for a bit of an amendment to go on it. So if you would be so kind to allow me to pass Senate Bill 1122 by for the day, I'd most appreciate it.
Thank the senator. Without objection, Senate Bill 1122 will go by for the day.
Senate Bill 1123, a bill relating to will contest, presumption of undue influence.
Senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenshain.
Mr. President, I move that the bill pass. Speaking to the bill.
Senator, is the floor.
Mr. President, members of the Senate, this bill is a bill dealing with financial exploitation of elders. This slightly alters the effect of a presumption in an undue influence case in Virginia. Right now, if somebody exerts their will on another and causes them to sign a will, perhaps giving all of their estate to a caregiver as opposed to their family. This is something that's done behind closed doors in secrecy, and it's very difficult to prove. It's a little bit like proving premeditated murder. You don't often have direct evidence of that. So what you have to do is present circumstantial evidence. And the Supreme Court has said that if you present evidence that there was a pre-existing will with different provisions in it, the person who made the will was mentally feeble, and the new will was procured by somebody in a fiduciary or confidential relationship, and the new will benefits them, that there's a presumption of undue influence. Unfortunately, the test established by the Supreme Court says that any evidence, no matter how small, can prick that bubble, and the presumption disappears. So if you wind up finding that the will was drafted by a lawyer, that's some evidence that it was not procured by undue influence, and that pricks the bubble, and the presumption has no effect. What this does is says it creates a presumption that doesn't just go away. And it allows essentially the jury, once those elements are established, to presume that undue influence existed unless the evidence indicates otherwise. The person challenging the will still has the obligation of proving undue influence by clear and convincing evidence. But right now, the elder exploitation, financial exploitation of elders is taking on epidemic proportions. It's estimated that $1 billion a year is stolen from seniors in Virginia. And we are sending people to prison for stealing from convenience stores. But if you steal somebody's $1 million estate, we're just saying it's a civil matter, and all you have to do is say that the will was notarized, and that pricks the bubble, and the presumption goes away. We need to protect our seniors from this kind of exploitation. This does not dramatically change the playing field. It does make it possible for families to protect themselves, for elders' intentions to be protected, and so with that, I would ask that this bill pass.
Thank the senator. For what purpose is Senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards, rise?
Mr. President, will the senator from Rockingham yield for a question?
Senator Yield.
I yield.
Senator Yield, you have the floor.
Senator, has this bill, Senate Bill 1123, gone to the Virginia Bar Association's Trust and Estates section?
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, it pains me to recite the history of this because this bill, at least a previous version of this bill, passed this chamber last year with a large bipartisan majority. The Virginia Bar Association's Wills, Trust, and Estates section came to me after the bill was already in the House and said, we see the issue, but we want to work with you, and the way that it's drafted creates some issues. And out of deference and concern for trying to get it right, I said, fine. This bill was roaring towards the finish line, but I do have great respect for the Wills, Trust, and Estates section, so I pulled it. It died on my motion last year. Unfortunately, the Wills, Trust, and Estates section, they did write a memo last February to convince me that this needed a little bit of work. In June, they called me and said, we'd like to talk about it. We still understand the issue, and we think we can work with you to work it out. November came and December came, and I heard nothing from them. I said, what gives? I've had it redrafted. I've incorporated your concerns in the redrafted bill and our discussions from June. And they said, we still oppose the bill. And they sent me a memo, which happened to be exactly the same memo they sent me in February, not even addressing this legislation. Unfortunately, the Wills, Trust, and Estates section has been uncooperative. They derailed this, and I believe that this reflects this does reflect what we discussed in February and June. They don't like it. Still, they are largely will writers. We've got an obligation to the people of Virginia, our elders, and we owe them more protection than they are getting now. This does not dramatically alter the playing field, but it provides more protection.
Further question?
Mr. President, thank you for that answer. We heard this, of course, in committee. I'm well aware that the Wills, Trust, and Estates section of Virginia Bar Association still does not support this bill, and their view is the current law, which I've looked at very carefully, is actually good law to protect the elderly and to protect estates. And I think in deference to the Virginia Bar Association's Wills, Trust, and Estates section, which is a very good section, I think we ought to just pass this by for the day or vote against the bill. And I intend to vote against the bill for that reason. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. For what purpose does the junior senator from Richmond City, Senator Morrissey, rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, speaking in support of Senate Bill 1123.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, as the senator from Rockingham stated, elder exploitation is very significant. Undue influence exists. And during a very robust discussion of this case, a compelling case was made by the patron of this bill that once you show undue influence, which can only be met by meeting a three-part test, then the burden should shift. I think the compelling case was punctuated by the vote on the committee. But what is also apparent, and the reason I spoke, is that the senator from Rockingham received a lot of pressure from VBA, from the Virginia Bar Association, essentially saying, we like it the way it is. The status quo is good enough for us. Well, it isn't, and it wasn't. And I applaud the senator, and I was for leading that charge, having the courage to stand up for the VBA, and for all of those reasons, I would encourage my colleagues to vote
in favor of passing SB 1123. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. For what purpose does the senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson, rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. Speak to the measure.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, we have been wrestling with this bill for years. I will tell you, my best friend back home is a trust and estates attorney, and he asked me to vote against this bill, and I'm going to do the opposite. I'm actually going to vote for the bill because, and it's not I love him any less, but the bottom line is we continue to struggle with this issue and not move the ball forward. And at the end of the day, we're the elected officials, and this is an issue. And there should be a presumption of undue influence in this situation. And if that is of no effect, then we're not protecting our senior citizens. So let's move this ball forward. And I do think the legal attorneys out in the hinterlands will they'll get the message. Thanks.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding Senate Bill 1123? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 1123 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote?
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 1.
Ayes 38, noes 1. Senate Bill 1123 passes.
Senate Bill 1128, a bill which provided a charter for the city of Norfolk relating to general updates.
Senator from Northern Chesapeake, Senator Spruill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning to you.
Morning, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Act of Assembly of 1918, which provide a charter for the city of Norfolk relating to a general update. What this bill does, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, I'm sorry, is that it adds the court, the justice of the peace, and they add the clerk of the city to allow to swear in the office on a local matter. This bill also repealed a section to establish a home guard militant in time of war and insurrection. It also removed reference to payment of poll tax in relationship to whether a signature is valid on a petition for the nomination of city council. Move the bill be approved.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding Senate Bill 1128? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 1128 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? All the senators voted. Do any senators desire to change their vote?
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, noes 0. Senate Bill 1128 passes.
Senate Bill 1141, a bill relating to Hampton Roads Area Refuse Collection Authority financial planning.
The senior senator from Chesapeake, Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to move that Senate Bill 1141 pass. Speaking to that.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. A little background. In 2010, I actually carried a bill that required the Auditor of Public Accounts, Mr. Kaczarski at that time, to look over the Southeastern Public Service Authority, which is the refuse collection organization for most of Hampton Roads. What he found was stunningly ineffective leadership, financial leadership, and you name it. A large portion of that was because it was only made up of city council members or their designee. So my bill basically said you still have a city council or board of supervisors appointee to SIPSA, but the other 10 were actually appointed quasi by the governor. He gave 3 names to each locality and said, pick one. That's who you're going to have. And they have to have a business background. And anyway, so to make a long story even longer, SIPSA was $280 million in debt. They were buying garbage trucks with 30-year loans, okay? But since that time, their debt is gone. They're able to buy their rolling stock and pay it off in just 2 years. They have done a marvelous job reinventing themselves. And I was asked by SIPSA to look this bill over, and what it actually does, it requires SIPSA to have a 5-year financial plan that it must keep records in accordance with the Virginia Public Records Act. It also requires SIPSA to employ an outside auditor and to have quarterly audits done on their operation and finances. Mr. President, SIPSA has earned the right to do this. I'm very proud of them, and I hope you'll pass the bill.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding Senate Bill 1141? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 1141 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote?
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. Senate Bill 1141 passes.
Senate Bill 1157, a bill relating to time of certain local elections.
Senator from Northern Chesapeake, Senator Spruill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President and members, Senate Bill 1157 is legislation that would move local election from May to November. Currently, we have approximately 115 localities who have not changed their location from May. I put this bill in for the people, not no city council. Make it plain. I did not put it in for any elected officials. It was the citizens who came to me and asked me from all over. In May of 2020, there was just over 2.7 million active votes eligible to vote in the local election. Of those 2.7 million, only 138,067 people participated in this local election, roughly maybe 5%. The Governor magazine note in 2015 that standalone municipal elections usually draw only for a small group of voters who often tend to be white, wealthier, and older. When more voters are expected, candidates have to do more to get themselves elected. There are 3 things, Mr. President, that I'm concerned with. Number 1, safety. Many schools are used as precincts, which allow the public in the building while students are there. There is a safety risk in keeping students safe. The same time you are coming in to vote, school buses are driving up and students are driving up. Number 2, efficiencies. Registrars who have to conduct a back-to-back-to-back election in the spring. In 2020, we had a March primary, a May election, a June primary, and a November election. With early voting now, this places a huge burden on local registrars to coordinate this election. Third point, this cost factor. The cost saving to each locality will be worth the switch. We should be good stewards of tax dollars, conducting an election where the turnout is about 10% or less. This is important. Let's get to the meat of this. First of all, I want the members to know this bill passed out of the full committee 12-3. But I know some of my friends say their arms have been twisted. They got to change the vote because the arm been twisted. I understand that. The city of Hampton, I was told that the city council of the city of Hampton voted for it, especially the mayor, but there was no input from the citizen. Newport News. I was told that the council voted for it, but there was no input from the citizens. Did you know in the Hampton Roads area, Virginia Beach have election in November? Portsmouth has election in November. Suffolk has election in November. Now let's look at some of the statistics that I have here, Mr. Chairman. In Chesapeake, in May of 2020, in Chesapeake, we have 153,415 that was eligible to vote. In Chesapeake in May, only 33,892 votes out of 153,000. Danville, 26,415 eligible to vote. In May, 5,455. Fairfax City, 16,145. Only 3,043 voted. Look at Hampton City, 89,844 are eligible to vote. They only had 16,000 voted in a May election. Newport News, 109,835. They only had 15,000 voted in the May election. The city of Norfolk, 119,393. They only had 13,000 out of 119,000, 13,415 that voted in the May election. Nobody votes in the May election. Now, let's get to the tales of two cities. This is not a Republican issue or a Democratic issue for me because I am catching on both sides. Okay, both sides said no. So it ain't partisan with me. The Democrats are email live. I almost became a Republican if it wasn't for John Cosgrove. Now, let's look at the tales of two cities. The mayor of Norfolk sent a letter to Chairman Lewis on behalf of the Chesapeake City Council as mayor. I'm right in opposition to Senate Bill 1155. Spruill was filed in January 17. The mayor says forcing local election to move the election to November, on the other hand, will divert attention away from local issues to favor partisan politics. Now, I want to make sure that I'm saying this right. My friend who lived in southern Chesapeake, in Chesapeake, the books say we don't have partisan elections. But ask my friend, in Chesapeake in May, you either run as a Democrat on a ticket or Republican. And he will verify that. But we are not nonpartisan in Chesapeake. We don't have it in Chesapeake. You don't run. You have 8 Republicans in Chesapeake. You had 9 Democrats. And the mayor sent this letter to the chairman, saying that the council has voted. Now, I get a letter. Mr. Chairman, I get a letter from Councilmember Dr. Ella P. Ward. She says, hello, Mr. Westcott, who is the liaison for the North and Mayor West. She says, and this is Dr. Ward, who is on city council, I have a problem with this letter and any other letter that gives the impression that all city council members support the letter of opposition to Senate Bill 1155. I believe that there are 3 members of council in favor of changing in May until November election. I, Councilwoman LP Ward, support Senate Bill 1155. The mayor sent this letter to the chairman of the committee. I want him to know this letter that he was talking about, it was written in February of 2020. In February of 2020, 3 members of city council voted. This was spearheaded, Mr. President, it was spearheaded by Councilmember Robert Ike, who is a Republican. He spearheaded to remove it to November, along with Councilmember Dwight Parker, a Democrat, along with Councilmember Ella Ward, a Democrat. But the mayor says the council voted for this, and this is on record. So LP Ward asked the mayor and the liaison, so send another letter to the chairman to retract that letter to state whether or not the council voted unanimously. That was not so. To tell them one city, here to tell them there's two cities. And now I'm getting even alive about that. Now let's look at Norfolk. That's the Democratic side. Whew, bless your heart. Look at Democratic side. Democratic side, the mayor of Norfolk does not support this. Let's get it plain. But he says to me, do what you got to do. He just won the vote. But I talked with other members of city council, all right? There was not a letter, just the mayor's vote. There was not a letter. Talked to other members of city council, no problem with it. And the citizen, no problem with it. Not one citizen in Chesapeake, not one citizen in Norfolk has called me to ask me in opposition of this. So now, I'm saying this. So I am not doing this as a Republican or a Democrat. I'm doing this for the citizens. The folks who were at that full committee meeting, they have heard the testimony from at least 19 folks who were supporting or in opposition. Out of the 19, at least 15 have voted in support of it. And we had 12 out of 3. Out of the 15, over half, they were Republicans. I know because they're from Chesapeake. I know my Republican friends in Chesapeake. Over half want to have election in November. So we were saying this. So what is this doing? We could save money. What we doing? We could have the cost factors go down. What we doing? We're giving the citizens what they want. These members, the mayor of Hampton, the mayor of Newport News, and yes, my friend, the mayor of Norfolk, I say to them, you're looking out for yourself. What about the citizens? So the calls that we got, who made a report before the committee from all over the state in supporting of it, it's time for us to move this. So I'm going to ask them, Mr. President and members, please move this election. I'm doing it for the people, not for the members of the city council. Thank you so much.
Thank the senator. For what purpose, Senator from James City County, Senator Norman rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in vigorous resistance to Senate Bill 1157. I will neither be as loquacious or as lengthy or as passionate on it. I reflect back many years ago when I was in local government in 1699, and I learned a lot of very valuable lessons. And one of the things I learned was something about arm twisting, and my friend from Chesapeake probably could educate me on arm twisting from local government officials. But I remember running that year, and what a welcomed experience it was as we were running in magisterial districts at the time. But let me point out just a couple of things. Mr. President, I would remind the body of a point they already know, and that is there is currently 2 ways that a locality may move their elections from May to November, and as was recited, several localities have done that. Most localities have not done that. You can either move your elections from May to November by adopting a local ordinance, and that is all that is required. The local government has the ability to move the date of local elections. The other option that we periodically see in the General Assembly is a city may do it through amending their charter. So there are 2 viable options at any time that a locality wants to change it, that they may do so. The senator pointed out some that are in favor of this and some that are opposed to it. Speaking more globally, Mr. President, I would remind the body that, first of all, the Virginia Municipal League has come out as an organization speaking on behalf of their constituency of local governments that they oppose Senate Bill 1157. The Coalition of First Cities has come out and has articulated their opposition to Senate Bill 1157. I would say, Mr. President, that it is interesting when you talk about the mechanics of this. There are still a number of localities in the Commonwealth of Virginia where local officials are elected either in a ward system or they are elected in a magisterial district. I wish I could tell you that those wards and magisterial districts always cross over, are always superimposed on those elections that are taking place in the fall. They are not simultaneous, and there is going to be some mechanical issues that are going to take place on that. So, Mr. President, I just would encourage the body to not support it. I appreciate the passion from the senator, and I understand why it got here, but I would suggest, Mr. President, that if localities truly want to change the date on which there are local elections are changed from May to November, there are two alternatives available to them. And I do not hear from the city of Chesapeake that they have either adopted an ordinance or that they have asked for a charter change. And what that suggests to me is that they don't embrace it. And I would say, Mr. President, one of the relationships that I established in the Senate and that I value to this day is the former senator who now is the mayor of the city of Norfolk, and I consider him a very dear friend. And I try to work with him and his council, which is a mix of both parties. But I try to work with them and be supportive on issues that the city of Norfolk undertakes. So I rise in support of Senate Bill 1157, sir.
Changed your mind.
Subliminal slip. No, you didn't persuade me, Lionel. A slip of the tongue. Thank you, guys.
Thank the senator. For purposes, the senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson, rise.
Mr. President, speak to the measure.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, let me begin by stating three immutable principles. First, I love my brother from North Chesapeake, and I respect everything he said. He has marshaled his arguments expertly, and he has described the situation in a very compelling fashion, and I have tremendous respect and love for him, but I'm not going to support this bill. Secondly, I will never figure out the politics in the 757 region of Virginia, never will. But I live in the 703, and this is going to impact us, and I'm going to explain why in a second. And three, I opposed this bill when it was brought by Republicans, and so I'm going to be consistent and oppose it when it's brought by Democrats. Now, let me talk a little bit about Fairfax City. And by the way, somebody at some point tried to rename it City of Fairfax. It's Fairfax City. That was chartered in 1964, and the mayor at that time was a gentleman named Ed Pritchard, and he was a very famous attorney. And he actually represented Fairfax County in the case of Baker versus Carr in the United States Supreme Court, which was decided almost exactly the same time, which established the principle of one man, one vote, which equalized Northern Virginia with the rest of the state in this body. He was the mayor of Fairfax City when we applied for a charter to become chartered as an institute, as a municipality. And in that application, they asked for spring elections. Now, Ed Pritchard was not opposed to people voting. He was not opposed to political participation. He wanted spring elections because they wanted to keep it separate from the partisan ballot in the fall. Now, let me explain to you why that's relevant. Not but 8 years later, his niece had married a young guy from Louisiana named John Peterson. Young guy, curly hair, went out knocking door to door, got elected, changed the course of history in Fairfax City, brought in a whole new generation of elected officials. He was able to run for city council. He was able to run because we had nonpartisan municipal elections. Why? Because he was a federal employee. He worked for the federal government. And the whole point about having spring municipal elections was to make sure that everybody could participate and potentially be a candidate. It wasn't just limited to the partisan ballot. Now, 26 years later, I ran for city council. I was not part of the establishment. The establishment was the Republicans. My family was Democrats. I had to cobble together the most unlikely coalition of people to support my candidacy, including, I might add, a young, somewhat disreputable attorney named Stanley, who actually agreed and helped me put up yard signs. But the bottom line is, because I was an independent, because it was a nonpartisan election, I was able to do that, even though the city at that time was overwhelmingly Republican. I was able to get elected. So my point is, I'm not saying this is the model for the rest of the state. I'm not saying Fairfax City or Town of Vienna, which is the exact same, by the way, and I'm speaking on behalf of both jurisdictions. I spoke to both mayors last night. But let us find our own path. Let us find our own path. My biggest worry is not that 3,000 people decided an election, but you're going to have 24 people decide an election, because that's how many people are on the Fairfax City Democratic Committee, and they'll get to decide who's on the sample ballot. That's my biggest worry. So, again, with all respect and love and affection for my colleague and my brother from North Chesapeake, please, as we've done so many times before, let the municipalities decide. Let us chart our own course. Thank you very much.
Thank the senator. And Senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson, would you rise for a question? Just point of clarification.
Yes, sir.
You earlier said that you're voting against your best friend, and then you're voting against the guy that you love.
Yes, sir.
What do you do to people you hate?
I vote for all their bills.
Thank the senator. For what purpose is the senior senator from Chesapeake, Senator Cosgrove, rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise with some trepidation to speak to the bill.
Senator, it's the floor.
Thank you. I, too, really enjoy my friend, Senator Spruill. I consider him one of my dearest friends. But we disagree on this particular issue, and for a couple of reasons. Number one, the cities did not ask for this. If they wanted to change their charter or change their election, they are perfectly capable of doing that. We shouldn't be telling them when you have to have your local elections. And the reason I think it's very important for them to have a spring election is because city council members, boards of supervisor members, and school board members are the ones closest to governing the people. It's your trash collection, it's your police department, it's your fire department, it's your schools. If we get moved to November election, all those people that have the most impact on the citizens will probably be at the very end of a 3 to 4 page ballot. They will be so far down the ticket, they won't even be thought of. So I would to say one final thing. We both know Councilmember Ward, and Senator Spruill mentioned that basically May elections are great for old white guys like me, right, have a lot of money. I would have to remind him that Councilmember Ward in May was the top vote getter. She's an African American female. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. For what purpose is the senior senator from Chesterfield, Senator Chase, rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd actually like to speak in favor of Senate Bill 1157.
Senator, has the floor.
Mr. President, I'm speaking in favor of this bill because I believe that we should be keeping it simple and for our voters who are conditioned to vote in November already. My concern today, and has been in the past, is that educating voters to vote in a summer or spring election when most are on spring break or even summer vacation decreases the number of people who participate in our elections. And Mr. President, I'm going to be consistent in regards to, I'm going to go with the method of nomination that's going to be most inclusive of the most number of voters in keeping it simple, just as I was in supporting primaries over conventions. And I support my friend from Chesapeake. I think this is a good bill, and it actually puts the power in the hands of the people instead of politicians. And for that reason, I'm going to support this bill.
Thank the senator. For what purpose is the senator from Franklin County, Senator Stanley, rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. Rise to speak to the measure.
Senator, has the floor.
And specifically with regard to Senate Bill 1157 and the speech from my good friend, the senator from Fairfax City, I want to just ask if the record can take that out of the video feed, because what he's done today, and by the way, I've been quiet the whole time here. Don't you like that I've not stood up yet, huh? You're welcome. You're welcome. But what he's done today, and I am from Southside, Virginia, is he has now revealed two things. One, that I lived in Fairfax, but two, that I worked to help get a Democrat elected to city council. But in doing so, I want to tell you why. And I think it goes to his point. And the point being that Chap, at that time, not only had really cool signs that everybody wanted in their yard with the exclamation point, orange, they were great. And I got in trouble with my homeowners association because I put that sign into my yard. And it actually got me interested, Mr. President, in politics, because they said I had to take it out. And I said, no way, I'm not taking it out. It's my First Amendment right. And so the first office I ever ran for was to get on the board of directors of that HOA. It was the worst mistake of my life. But what the senator from Fairfax City truly has stated is that the important part is nonpartisan. It didn't matter whether Peterson was Democrat or Republican. And I want to be sure that I'm on the record by saying I thought he was a Republican. And maybe sometimes you guys do too. Sometimes we think he's a Republican. But he was one of the most thoughtful, articulate, passionate politicians that wanted to change Fairfax City, wanted to do well for Fairfax City, and make Fairfax City what it is today. It didn't matter what his party was, his party affiliation. There were many Republicans, friends of mine, who had his signs in their yards. And truly, when we move, as we've seen, and it's only going to get worse, as we've seen, every time if we move these elections to November, the partisanship has to creep in. It's unavoidable. And so that's why when local elections occur, local elections matter. So people like a Chap Peterson get elected based on their principles, not their party. And that's what's important to our cities, our towns, and the areas that hold these elections in the spring and not in the fall. I had the pleasure and honor of being one in a long line of illustrious chairmen of local government. We have always entertained those charter changes that when a city or a town wanted to change their election schedule, we would entertain them, and we always let them do it. But it wasn't the lodestar of our very important consequential docket. Right, gentlemen? It was not. Let them decide. You know, one of the things we have in local government is that too often we here in the General Assembly under the Dillon Rule are making decisions for them. Let's at least preserve what they have in their charter so that they can make these decisions. And if they want to do it, they can have a referendum or they can come to us and ask for a charter change, so that more Chap Petersons can be elected in this world. Don't we all need a little more Chap Peterson in our life? I say yes. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding Senate Bill 1157? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 1157 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote?
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes no. The clerk will close the roll.
The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 19, noes 19.
Ayes 19, noes 19. Chair votes aye. Senate Bill 1157 passes.
Senate Bill 1181, a bill relating to special immigrant juvenile status jurisdiction.
Senator from Eastern Fairfax, Senator Servell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill pass and speaking to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a status that that ICE is able to grant to juvenile or young adult immigrants called special immigrant juvenile status that allows them to obtain legal status if they are abused, abandoned, or neglected. In order to get that, they have to go to a juvenile court, and a judge has to make a finding that they are abused, abandoned, or neglected. In 2017, the Court of Appeals of Virginia found that the Virginia court didn't have that jurisdiction to do it. So in 2019, we passed a law, my bill, which granted our juvenile, or restored our juvenile courts that authority. That bill passed this body 38-1, or 39-1. The only problem with the bill, I'd later discovered, is that the federal government allows you to apply for that status through age 21, but our juvenile courts only currently allow you to apply through age 18. And so this bill basically just brings our authority that we passed in 2019, 38-1, into accord with federal policy, which allows a child to apply for this through age 21 in a court. That's basically all the bill does. You might ask, why can't this get done in time? Sometimes children don't find out they need to do this until they turn 18. We've also had issues with crowded dockets, the pandemic. You have to get in front of a judge. Sometimes that can take 3, 4, 5 months, and by the time you realize you need to do it, your clock runs out. There's also can be issues with international service of process when you have parents in other countries, and so there's reasons why sometimes there can be delays and we need this extra time. And I would just note that there's 12 other states that have adopted this policy, including the liberal bastion of the People's Republic of Mississippi. So I would hope that this bill that passed 38-1 would fare well this session as well. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding Senate Bill 1181? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 1181 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote?
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes no.
The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 22, noes 17.
Ayes 22, no 17. Senate Bill 1181 passes.
Senate Bill 1208, a bill relating to continuity of government.
Senator from Southern Fairfax, Senator Barker.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that Senate Bill 1208 pass. And speaking to that measure,
Senator has the floor.
As we all are well aware of all the issues that we've had to deal with during the pandemic, one of the things that has been dealt with significantly in the Northern Virginia area is trying to help those businesses that are retail establishments and particularly that are restaurants that have had their economic situation challenged in many ways. One of the things that the local governments have done is passed ordinances that are temporary in nature and that are allowing, in particular, restaurants to be able to set up outdoor dining and also to purchase, some of them have, in addition, have purchased tents to be able to maintain that outdoor dining beyond the warm weather that was in existence during the summer and early part of the fall. Those restaurants that have done that have incurred significant capital expense to do it, but it has helped keep many of those alive and provided an opportunity for patrons who would prefer to use that service. Right now, the way the code is written, it is allowed for local governments to have an ordinance that is in existence on a temporary basis during a state of emergency, but that ordinance can continue in effect for only 6 months. What is proposed in this bill is to change that 6 months to 12 months to provide an opportunity for the restaurants in particular and some of the other retail establishments to be able to recoup the investments they've made in the purchasing of tents and other things associated with that. And so what this does is allows that a locality to keep that ordinance in effect for up to 12 months following the end of the state of emergency, which will be helpful to our local businesses and particularly our restaurants. And with that, I would hope it would be the pleasure of the body to pass this measure.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding Senate Bill 1208? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 1208 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close. Actually,
Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
now the clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. Senate Bill 1208 passes.
Senate Bill 1285, a bill relating to vacant buildings registration.
Senator from Hampton, Senator Locke.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the bill pass and speaking to that motion.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Prior to 2013, localities had the authority to require registration of any building that had been vacant for a period of 12 months or more. In 2013, the General Assembly amended the code to allow registration of such buildings only if they also met the definition of derelict. Vacant buildings can attract squatters, particularly in houses with owners who do not reside locally. This can lead to an increase in crime in a neighborhood. Though the houses are vacant, they are not derelict and therefore do not meet the definition for the registry. The City of Hampton would like the General Assembly to remove the 2013 amendment of Section 15.2-1127 around derelict buildings, therefore restoring the language to its prior form and permitting localities to maintain a vacant building registry. And that's the gist of the building, Mr. President. Again, I move its passage.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding Senate Bill 1285? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 1285 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote?
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 37, noes 2.
Ayes 37, noes 2. Senate Bill 1285 passes.
Senate Bill 1309, a bill relating to local stormwater assistance, flood mitigation, and protection.
Senator from Alexandria, Senator Evan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill pass, and speaking to that motion.
Senator has the floor.
This has to do with flexibility for localities that have a local stormwater management fund that are part of a comprehensive flood mitigation and protection plan that they've adopted. Currently, you can have localities can have their own appropriated stormwater management funds for the purpose of granting funds to the owner of a private property or common interest community for stormwater management and erosion prevention on previously developed lands. However, they're only allowed to use those grants for the construction, improvement, or repair of a stormwater management facility or erosion and sediment control. The legislation being proposed does not require the localities to provide funding. It only enables them more flexibility in facing the challenges due to flooding in their communities. And to be clear, the expanded authority in the bill must be paired with a comprehensive flood mitigation program. So these small grant-funded projects cannot be done in lieu of larger flood mitigation plans. In the Mid-Atlantic, climate change models predict an increase in the amount and intensity of rain. In Alexandria, we experienced 3 really significant intense rain events in less than 18 months, and they were so significant they required water rescue from the fire department. We know that targeted assistance on private properties can be a cost-effective way to reduce the risk of flooding. And one neighborhood scale project that costs several hundreds of thousands of dollars can protect hundreds of properties and homes faster and in a very cost-effective manner. I will say that stormwater grant assistance provides help at an extremely critical time, especially for lower income families that have been hard hit. And I'll say that they can result even in lower flood insurance rates. So the kinds of projects that could be included that might not be included now would be things like basement flood proofing, flood protection products, grading, rain gardens, cisterns, and others. So with that, again, I renew my motion that the bill pass.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding Senate Bill 1309? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 1309 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote?
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, noes 0. Senate Bill 1309 passes.
Uncontested calendar, Senate bills on second reading.
Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, I move that all Senate bills on second reading on the uncontested calendar, pages 7 through 9, that's SB 1130 through SB 1255, be advanced to their engrossment and third reading in a block after the adoption of any amendments thereto, and any senator desiring to move a bill from the block, please do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill.
Senator, the question is, shall all Senate bills on second reading on the uncontested calendar on pages 7 through 9, Senate Bill 1130 through Senate Bill 1255, be engrossed and advanced to their third reading in the block after the adoption of any amendments thereto, and that any senator desiring to remove a bill from the block will do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The clerk will read the number of the bills.
Senate Bill 1130, reported from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with amendment.
Senator from Spotsylvania, Senator Reeves.
Thank you, Mr. President. Getting my mic working here. I would move the committee amendment, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the committee amendment be adopted? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendment is adopted.
Senate Bill 1134, reported from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations. Senate Bill 1145, reported from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with amendment.
Senator from Northern Fairfax, Senator Howe.
I move the amendment be agreed to.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendment is agreed to.
Senate Bill 1155, reported from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with an amendment.
Senator from Northern Fairfax, Senator Howe.
I move the amendment be agreed to.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendment is agreed to.
Senate Bill 1156, reported from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations. Senate Bill 1255, reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor with an amendment.
Senator from Williamsburg, Senator Mason.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move the committee amendment be agreed to.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendment is agreed to.
Regular calendar, Senate bills on second reading. Senate Bill 1146.
Sorry, Madam Clerk, to interrupt. Was going to engross an advancement a block? Okay, we'll do that first.
Yeah, because he didn't move.
Okay, we're good? Okay. The question is, shall the Senate bills be engrossed in advance to their third reading in a block? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bills are engrossed in advance to their third reading.
Regular calendar, Senate bills on second reading. Senate Bill 1142. A bill relating to persons who may celebrate rites of marriage, members of the General Assembly. Reported from the Committee on the Judiciary, and there's a floor substitute.
Senior Senator from Chesapeake, Senator Cosgrove.
Mr. President, I'll defer to the senator from Alexandria.
Thank the Senator. Senator from Alexandria, Senator Eben.
I move the floor substitute and speaking to it.
Senator want to waive the reading?
I move that we waive the reading of the floor substitute.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the reading of the floor substitute be waived? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The reading of the floor substitute is waived. Senator from Alexandria, Senator Eben.
Thank you. I move the floor substitute pass and speaking to that.
Senator, is the floor.
I want to thank the senior senator from Chesapeake for bringing this legislation, which in its original form would let members of the General Assembly officiate at weddings. I noticed it, and I thought, Mr. President, that you too would be a fine officiant and wanted to amend it so that the governor, lieutenant governor, or attorney general could also officiate at a wedding. It's an important responsibility, and I think it's only fitting that if we have our state-level elected officials do it, that we let all of us do it. With that, I renew my motion.
Thank the Senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding the floor substitute? For purposes, Senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson rise. Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the floor substitute be adopted? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The floor substitute is adopted. The senior senator from Chesapeake, Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now, in its amended form, I move this bill be engrossed and passed on to this third reading.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1355, a bill to allow the withdrawal of a member of the Rapidan Service Authority.
Senator from Augusta, Senator Hanger.
Mr. President, I would ask that that bill go by for the day.
Thank the Senator. Without objection, Senate Bill 1355 will go by for the day.
Senate Bill 1182, a bill relating to motor vehicle liability insurance coverage limits.
Senator from Eastern Fairfax, Senator Serbell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can that bill go by for the day? Some people want some more time to try and kill it.
Without objection, Senate Bill 1182 will go by for the day.
Senate Bill 1202, a bill relating to uninsured and underinsured motorist insurance policies, bad faith.
Senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
I move that that bill be engrossed and passed on to third reading.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1211, a bill relating to establishment of the Public Safety Trust Fund.
Senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, I move this bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1219, a bill to direct the Bureau of Insurance to review and make recommendations regarding paid family leave. Reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor with an amendment.
Senator from Arlington, Senator Favola. Senator, I think your mic may not be on.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the amendment be agreed to.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendment is agreed to. Senator from Arlington, Senator Favola.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the bill be engrossed in advance to its third constitutional reading.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1276, a bill relating to health insurance, essential health benefits, abortion coverage.
The senior senator from Richmond City, Senator McClellan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Uncontested calendar, Senate bills on first reading.
Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, I move that all Senate bills on first reading on the uncontested and regular calendar, pages 12 through 16, Senate Bill 1111 through Senate Bill 1291, that the rules be suspended and the first constitutional reading of the titles be dispensed with.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the rules be suspended and the first reading of the titles of Senate bills on the uncontested and regular calendars, pages 12 through 16, Senate Bill 1111 through Senate Bill 1291, be dispensed with? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote?
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The reading of the titles is dispensed with. Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Now, Mr. President, I move those bills go by for the day.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the Senate bills on the uncontested and regular calendars now on second reading go by for the day? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bills will go by for the day.
Uncontested calendar, Senate joint resolutions on first reading.
Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, I move that all Senate joint resolutions on first reading on the uncontested and regular calendars, pages 16 through 18, that's SJR 298 through SJR 303, that the rules be suspended and the first constitutional reading of the titles be dispensed with.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the rules be suspended and the first reading of the titles of the Senate joint resolutions on the uncontested and regular calendars, pages 16 through 18, Senate Joint Resolution 298 through Senate Joint Resolution 303, be waived? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote?
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The reading of the titles is waived. The Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
And now I move that those resolutions go by for the day.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the Senate joint resolutions on the uncontested and regular calendars now on second reading go by for the day? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolutions will go by for the day.
Regular calendar, Senate resolution on first reading. Senate Resolution 91, expressing the censure of the Senate. Memorial resolutions.
The Senator from Loudoun County, Senator Bell.
Mr. President, could move the SR 91 go by for the day?
Without objection, Senate Resolution 91 will go by for the day.
Memorial resolutions.
Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, I move that the memorial resolutions on pages 18 through 22, that's HJR 517 through SR 92, be considered in a block in the usual manner, waiving the reading of the resolutions thereof with the understanding that any senator desiring to remove a resolution from the block will do so after the clerk has read the title of the resolution.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the memorial resolutions on pages 18 through 20, House Joint Resolution 517 through Senate Resolution 92, be considered in the block in the usual manner, waiving the reading of the resolutions thereof, with the understanding that any senator desiring a resolution be removed from the block will do so after the clerk has read the title of the resolution. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The resolutions are before us in the block. The clerk will read the titles of the memorial resolutions.
House Joint Resolution 517, celebrating the life of Lou Ethel Lapsley Carson. House Joint Resolution 518, celebrating the life of Nathaniel Gridlin. House Joint Resolution 519, celebrating the life of Frederick Barger, Jr. House Joint Resolution 520, celebrating the life of Philip G. Osborne. House Joint Resolution 533, celebrating the life of George Markey Keating. House Joint Resolution 534, celebrating the life of Lila Donovan McCutcheon Richards. House Joint Resolution 565, celebrating the life of the Honorable Augustus Benton Chafin, Jr.
Senator from Washington, Senator Pillion.
Mr. President, could that be removed from the block?
Without objection, Senate Resolution 565 will be removed from the block.
House Joint Resolution 571, celebrating the life of Alan Zim. House Joint Resolution 581, celebrating the life of Carl David Stotzfer Sr. House Joint Resolution 585, celebrating the life of Harold Reed. House Joint Resolution 586, celebrating the life of the Reverend Alfonso Hamilton. Senate Joint Resolution 304, celebrating the life of the Honorable Mamie E. Coate.
Mr. President,
Senator from Hampton, Senator Locke.
the Senate Joint Resolution 304 come out of the block, please.
Without objection, Senate Joint Resolution 304 will be removed from the block.
Senate Joint Resolution 305, celebrating the life of Billy Joe Roberts.
Mr. President,
Senator from Hampton, Senator Locke.
the Senate Joint Resolution 305 come out of the block and bye for the day.
Without objection, Senate Joint Resolution 305 will be removed from the block and go bye for the day.
Senate Joint Resolution 311, celebrating the life of Robert Edward Marin. Senate Joint Resolution 315, celebrating the life of Theodore Carter Delaney, Jr.
Senator from Bath, Senator Deeds.
Mr. President, I was just rising to ask the next two resolutions, 316 and 317, go by for the day.
Thank the Senator. Without objection, Senate Joint Resolutions 316 and 317 will come out of the block and go bye for the day.
Senate Joint Resolution 318, celebrating the life of Stephen Teal Goodwin. Senate Resolution 85, celebrating the life of Jeffrey Peter Powell, MD. Senate Resolution 92, celebrating the life of Luther Hilton Foster.
The resolutions in the block will be agreed to in the usual manner. All those in favor of agreeing to the memorial resolutions will please rise. The resolutions are agreed to.
Commending resolutions. Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
House Joint Resolution 565.
Senator from Washington, Senator Pillion.
Mr. President, this is identical to the Senate joint resolution that we adopted on the first day of session. I move that it be agreed to.
Thank the Senator. House Joint Resolution 565 will be agreed to in the usual manner. All those in favor of agreeing to the memorial resolution will please rise. The resolution is agreed to.
Senate Joint Resolution 304.
Senator from Hampton, Senator Locke.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate Senate Joint Resolution 304 be agreed to, and speaking to that.
Senators, the floor.
Mr. President, when Delegate Mamie Bacote passed in December, I lost a really good friend, and many people served with her when she was in the House of Delegates. Mamie and I kind of led parallel lives. She and I attended the same church in Newport News. We were members of the same sorority, the same as the Vice President of the United States. I had to put that in, Louise. We were members of some of the same organizations in Hampton Roads. She was an adjunct professor at Hampton University in the same department with me. We tended to travel together on vacations, got into a lot of trouble together. In any number of ways, we decided basically at different times to run for city council at the same time. She ran for Newport News City Council at the same time that I ran for Hampton City Council. And almost simultaneously, she decided to run for the House of Delegates at the time that I decided to run for the Senate. We were both elected in 2003 and came to the General Assembly in 2004. And Delegate Ward was also elected at that time, and we were pretty much known as the Three Amigos because the three of us were always together. But Mamie's family and my family were very, very close to each other. So it was very hard for me to actually let my niece know that Mamie had died because she was always Aunt Mamie to her. I lost a very, very dear friend when she passed away last month. And it was very difficult to be a part when her family asked me to speak at the Mass. That was very hard for me. Because of COVID, I had not been able to see her for a long period of time. But I will miss her. But she's now with Teddy, who we all knew as Coach. And I know that some people in here served with her in the House of Delegates. So again, I move that the resolution be agreed to.
Thank the Senator. For what purpose is the senior senator from Richmond City, Senator McClellan, rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. Speaking to the resolution.
Senators, the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I and several of us here had the pleasure of serving with Delegate Mamie Bacote in the House, and you've heard and probably remember her as a very formidable, passionate public servant. She was also a teacher, and she kept the teacher's heart throughout her career. And many times as we were sitting on the House floor, whether it was during a debate or at ease, and she'd get on something, you'd see the teacher in her come out, and she'd point that finger to make sure she was driving home her point. But what I want to talk about is before she was a teacher, before she was a public servant officially, she was a civil rights activist. She was a student at Virginia Union and was one of the Richmond 34. And the Richmond 34 on February 22nd, 1960, went to the Tallheimers' lunch counter. Tallheimers was across from where the now Hilton is. That was in Miller and Rhodes. They sat at the segregated lunch counter and refused to leave and were arrested. And that sparked a boycott that eventually led to all Tallheimers' lunch counters in 1960, 4 years before the Civil Rights Act being integrated. That in of itself might not sound that extraordinary, but she would enthrall us by telling the story of what that actually was like. If you ever go to the Smithsonian Museum of African American History, there's an exhibit with the Greensboro lunch counter, and you can put on the headphones and hear a recording of what those activists heard at their sit-in. It was very similar. They had ketchup thrown on them. They were called names. They were threatened. It was very traumatic. And I didn't realize how traumatic until I saw a news clip where John Lewis, when the museum opened, put those headphones on and heard the hatred and vitriol that he heard at a lunch counter, and he began to weep. And Mamie Bacote carried that with her as a badge of honor, because as a college student, her courage, along with the other 33 members, allowed me, later, as a child, to go into that same Tallheimers without a care in the world. And so not only was she a good friend, a good teacher, a good delegate, she was a hero. And for those reasons, I also ask that we pass the resolution.
Thank the senator. For what purpose is the senior senator from Chesapeake, Senator Cosgrove, rise?
Speak very briefly to the resolution.
Senator has the floor.
I was indeed privileged to have served with Mamie Bacote. She was quite a person. You didn't want to be on the wrong side of her. But I will tell you that she was one of the most wonderfully kind people I have ever known. She would just light up a room, and you just loved talking to her. So, Mr. President, I also asked the resolution be agreed to, but I would also ask that when the Senate adjourned today, it adjourned in the memory of former delegate Mamie Bacote.
Thank the senator. The resolution will be agreed to. Senator from Northern Chesapeake, Senator Spruill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Speak to the resolution.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President and members, Mamie Bacote mean more to me probably than anybody in here serving in the House. It was her job, along with Dr. C, to keep me straight. The job was, it takes a village to raise Spruill. And I reminded them, out of 16 brothers and sisters living in Broadlawn Project, everybody beat me. They said, Miss Molly, that boy yours? So everybody beat me because I was that kind of guy. Everybody had to raise me. So when I went to the Senate, they passed it on to Senator Lucas and Senator Mamie Locke, and they prayed for me every day. So Mamie Bacote, thank you so much for helping me get where I am. And thank you to you and Dr. C both for allowing Senator Locke and Senator Louis Lucas to keep me on the rightful path. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to speak to the resolution? Seeing none, the resolution will be agreed to in the usual manner. All those in favor of agreeing to the memorial resolution will please rise. The resolution is agreed to.
Commending resolutions.
Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, I move the commending resolutions on page 21 through 23, SJR 512 through SJR 314, be considered in a block by voice vote, waiving the reading of the resolution, with the understanding that any senator desiring to remove a resolution from the block will do so after the clerk has read the number of the resolution.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the commending resolutions on pages 21 through 23, House Joint Resolution 512 through Senate Joint Resolution 314, be considered in the block by voice vote, waiving the reading of the resolutions, with the understanding that any senator desiring a resolution be removed from the block will do so after the clerk has read the number of the resolution. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The resolutions are before us in the block. The clerk will read the numbers of the resolutions.
House Joint Resolutions 512, 521, 532, 535, 540, 544, 547, 553, 554, 570, 580, 584, 290, Senate Joint Resolutions 295, 296, 306, 307, 312, 313, 314.
Question is, shall the resolutions be agreed to? All in favor of agreeing to the resolutions will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolutions are agreed to. Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, I'd inquire of the clerk, does that complete the calendar for today?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there any other business to come before the Senate? What purpose does the junior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator Kiggins, rise?
Mr. President, I just rise for a quick point of personal privilege.
Senator, has the floor.
Today is Alzheimer's Disease Advocacy Day, and normally we would have them all visit our offices and we'd introduce them up in the gallery. But because that didn't happen today, I just wanted to take a minute to point that out to everyone, remind everyone there's more than 5 million Americans living with Alzheimer's disease. By 2050, there'll be that number will rise to about 14 million. Alzheimer's disease is the 6th leading cause of death in the United States, which costs the nation $305 billion annually, or will in the next few years. More than 16 million Americans provide unpaid care for people with Alzheimer's disease and other dementias. And I know that we have a budget amendment in for case management for dementia that was removed due to some of the revenue restrictions with COVID. So I support that budget amendment, and just want to remind everybody of the caregivers, the families, the patients who suffer with this disease, and just raise awareness today. Thank you.
Thank the senator. For what purpose does the senator from Northern Chesapeake, Senator Spruill, rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. Point of personal privilege.
Senator, has the floor.
Mr. President, and members, I stand to speak on the article that I read in Virginia Politics today. Yesterday, while history was unfolding, the inauguration of our 46th president and the historical first woman, a woman of color, elected as vice president. Chesapeake School Board told their teachers not to show the inauguration live, that a video clip of highlights would be provided later. Apparently, Chesapeake leaders cite the evidence change of a political climate as a reason for not allowing this to be shown. Later, it was clarified to mean out of an abundance of caution due concern for violence. I am deeply disappointed that the leaders in Chesapeake who are responsible to educate our students of century in history is played out live in our nation. The inauguration was historical and showing to children everywhere that no matter what you look like, no matter where you come from, and no matter what you want to do in this country, you can do anything. Little girls, young women who was denied the opportunity to see a woman raise her hand to take the oath office of Vice President of the United States, a woman of color. I wonder what clip the Chesapeake Public Schools are providing to the students to watch while they learn, while they let them see, will they let them see Amanda Gorman deliver her powerful original poem, The Hill We Climb, which will they inspire the young folks to even reach higher? Did they let them see our president pledge to work as hard for those who voted for him as those who did not vote for him? I, Mr. President, along with the Chesapeake Education Association, the Chesapeake School Board, the Chesapeake Education Association, the Virginia Education Association expressed deep concern over our students being denied the opportunity to watch history in the making. I am truly hope that the political change of climate in Chesapeake School Board was not cited because a Republican was leaving and a Democrat was coming in. I hope that the Chesapeake Public School, Mr. President, will complete an unedified version of the entire inauguration to let our students see. These are our students. Could you imagine, Mr. President, that what it means when the young blacks that we are trying to inspire so often that they could be anything in life if you give an opportunity. And to me, Mr. President, I have achieved that dream myself. I can tell most of you that coming up with 16 brothers and sisters, Mr. President, to have the speech impediment, you can see how I use these to help me to understand a little bit. I always want to be a politician or a preacher. I couldn't be a preacher because I cuss too much. So I'm a politician, but I had to do something. So because of the help that I got from everybody, because I watch folks like you on TV, no matter what color you are, I want to be like you. And yet a poor kid from Broadlawn Project, here I am. So we don't want the school board to deny anybody the opportunity to see what they can be in life. Shame on you, Chesapeake School Board. Let these young kids have the opportunity to see what they can be. Thank you so much.
Thank the senator. For what purpose is the senior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator D. Steph, rise?
Mr. President, I rise for a point of personal privilege.
Senator, has the floor.
Mr. President, I wanted to applaud the governor on hiring Erin Sutton as Chief Deputy State Coordinator for Virginia Department of Emergency Management. I've worked with her on May 31st in the tragedy we had in Virginia Beach. She understands the NIMS, the two-eyed NIMS, the one-eyed NIMS, and HSEEP, as well as incident management, which includes mass casualties, mass vaccinations, and natural events and man-made events. She's recognized as a national expert. The NIMS, just so everyone knows, is the National Incident Management System, which guides all levels of government, non-governmental organizations, and private sector to work together to prevent, protect against, mitigate, respond to, and recover from incidents. NIMS provides the stakeholders across the whole community with shared vocabulary, systems, and processes to successfully deliver the capabilities described in the National Preparedness System. NIMS defines the operational systems that guide how personnel at the federal, state, and local levels work together during incidents. Again, Mr. President, I want to applaud the governor for hiring Erin Sutton, a national asset, because I have confidence in her to handle the command and control for any incident, large or small. Thank you.
Thank the senator. For what purpose is the senator from Western Fairfax, Senator Marsden, rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. Point of personal privilege.
Senator, has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I had the privilege today and the honor of having my COVID shot down at the Arthur Ashe Center. I just want to commend the people who were involved in that. It was the most well-organized, efficient, thorough, effective process that I have been through, and I know how long it must have taken to plan all that and put it together and get everything in the computer software. But I was in and out in a half an hour with a second appointment set, and I would just like to commend the folks who put that together. And I think that Virginia's on the right path, Mr. President, if we have folks like that looking after our health. Thank you so much.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be recognized? Seeing none, the clerk will report any announcements on the desk.
Today, Thursday, January 21st, the Committee on Transportation will meet 15 minutes after adjournment, East Committee Room. The Education and Health Subcommittee on Public Education will meet 1/2 hour after adjournment in the West Committee Room. Senators Hashmi, Howe, Locke, Donovan, and Peake. The Finance and Appropriations Subcommittee on K through 12 Education will meet at 3 p.m. in the Senate chamber at the Science Museum. Senator Saslaw, Howe, Norman, Lucas, Newman, and McClellan. The Committee on Finance and Appropriations will meet at 4 p.m. in the Senate chamber. The committee will hear budget amendments for non-committee members. Tomorrow, Friday, January 22nd, the Finance and Appropriations Subcommittee on Capital Outlay will meet at 8 a.m. in the West Committee Room in the Science Museum. Senators Deeds, Norman, Howe, Saslaw, Hanger, and Locke. The Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services will meet at 8 a.m. in the East Committee Room. This is a schedule change. Committee on Rehab and Social Services, 8 a.m. tomorrow. The Education and Health Subcommittee on Health Professions will not meet. This is also a schedule change. Education and Health Subcommittee on Health Professions will not meet. The Committee on Rules will meet at 11 a.m. in the West Committee Room. The Democratic Caucus will meet 1/2 hour before session in the Democratic Caucus Room. The Republican Caucus will meet 1/2 hour before session in the Republican Caucus Room. And I need to remind all members and staff that on Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, the Science Museum is open to the public, and you are to wear your mask when you're moving to the committee rooms, and you are to wear your mask Monday through Friday in committee. We appreciate your assistance in this. Have a nice weekend.
We don't have to come back tomorrow, I think. Madam Clerk is through with all of us. So we'll see you here tomorrow.
Mr. President?
Sorry, Senator from Prince William County, Senator McPike.
Thank you. I'm just wondering if the clerk can also provide the body with a reminder of a day countdown for a certain date that might be coming up soon. Thank you, Mr. President.
I'm working on it.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there any other business to come before the Senate? Seeing none, I call on the Senator from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that the Senate do now adjourn until 12 noon on tomorrow. And when we do, I move that we adjourn in memory of former Delegate Mamie E. Baycoat.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the Senate stand adjourned until 12 noon tomorrow, and that when we so adjourn, we do so in the honor and memory of former Delegate Mamie Baycoat? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The Senate stands adjourned until 12 noon tomorrow in the honor and memory of former Delegate Mamie Baycoat.